영지 전부 zordan 님이 장 오늘 모놈 전부는 저다 바그라다는 잔도 셔마도 돈바 되지 잔라기 좀저러네 저러 저링이 정감서 저 되지 셔나 예라만 지메 반조 자라 소라 공주 똑반 보러 신지로 공주 똑반 보러 신지로 공주 똑반 보러 신지 로无上甚深微妙百倍千万劫难遭遇我今家园得书持愿解如来真实义，为度化一切众生，请大家发无上殊胜的菩提心。Tirkuturmipati ce Tarkinandan Jijarbuk Chukulogbo Di Sanji Jordan de la Ndarkato Sora Zumbab Jordan de Dokastavi Lena Zamang Marnam Jik Chukulogbo Yin La Semjin de Kiva Dan Chivi Ce Tamchitn of Dala Wangwa Yino Shirib Daka Semki Pana Semjin de la Shin the Pamber Drippers Dodnayan Semjin de Daka Guba Gomba Martogne, Kivadan Chiva, Niki Tsenagan, Deva Topra Matirdo. Techi Virginan, Zamolanga Marnam Tomar Kivi Tse, Kibadan Vedme Ganjik, Kivaran Dopata, Kivi La Zonde, Ranga Nyankordan, Kantimar Nams, Tabrashina, Di, Yerladan, Zivda Jame Parnam, Nibrashede, Mavanika, Jonran Gerajan, Deva Topni, Nyankornam Lion, Pambaran Guru. 대양 샘진 사태 디 샤트nam 추급제비 마라 정월 맵샤고 가르테 테트르 시상 닌니르 남 디데 샤창라 롱수 쇼바당 얼러당 가르당 롤모라 소비 넘버가 양와 나속라로나 마와 니캅데와 토브르 만교로 디지지르제나 웹츠 강직 지비체 인쟁안당 돈극당 정보장 메파지 학내 디 Mai di zhingawi chakla rurun dodna yang, da kar ne yirla dang zidang nam zhande mawag nika zhungwa dang dedagla dewa dang pambar zhibar shibago. Dertir dewa tobaram tonab sunam ji gewe lemzhe de lep zhifte yirla zibdag lanje nam la yang, gachang zubar rigna gang, gachat delir dogde nyenye nam di de semchin zubar shena di, Rangshi Ranglarmanbe, Mavagnika, Nuprangerwa Yuno. Zamon Langa Semchin Kanjik Tsempuvana, Geva Jones, Jibagamar, Digbab Jibakanza, Gangyun Rong, Dagna Tedak Tsempune, Ansung on his Tor Mandodna, Dagna Tedak Tsempune, Dagna Tedak Tsempune, Mandodna Yang. Gandak Gestab Jibi Kanza, Namna, Dagla Yang, Nibar Perive, Tedak Ansung the Tor Mandopar Muchako. Zamolong Zemjin Ganju, Geva Driba Tak Tsempubana, Tela Ansong Done Bi Han J, Gapchuk Tomchuk Mombo Di, Pami Zixer Nawagam, Ninkur Gixer Navar Shine, Ansong Gones, Tribershipa Yena, Gusser Digbabsabi Ganzak, the Ansong Gones, Tripan, Mumago so, Zumbab Jordan, the Tirtan Zamolong Wagon Ganjing Tsempubana, Dear number she bar Nam Maxerjan. Gevadang Digbir Namjak Mashibadang, Mugdang Navigam, Tontu Mepeti, Yankur Namji Shuti Chet, Chubar Jetchin Baradang, Dotamba Lobadang, Sanjedam Shanship Sankum, San Joba, Lasuk Givisava Jabna, Di Shuo Ding, Yang Ansongo Ne Le Taradang, Dutang, Lanji, Tsor Namjang, Ranshik Din Torvan Euro, Zumbab Jordan, Dertar Daka Tabra, Sharte, Semjan Ganjik Namjik, Sempuvice, Sempuvana, Sanji Jim San Lachik Tubadang, San Shanship Sanhum San Lachik Tubadang, Tabajimbum Dorde Tsirchikam, Tsirchik Tubergerna, Same Paranga, Shibi Ganzak Mato Jan, Gansondur Ton, Digbab Sirbi Ganzak Yen, Tenit Yonsu Jordan Euro, Tenit Jordan de Tsokudabo, Rigerbo, La Karsarva, no Shamba Chimbo Dambe, Tertur Shamba, Sim Kidney, Kiadan, Chevi, Semson, Tor Shiba, you know. Maun Jistan Namsis Kibadan, Vedme Ganji, Kibadan, Chivice, Kibadan, Chivice, Kuki, Sim Kitamba, Manibur, Semson Nam. Jarte, Tanjib de Valango Prashavo, in Rigerbu Sanjib Jondan de la Sorva, the Kachatan Suar, the Shirmer Dobo Sim Kitty. Kachik Riri, Jendan Zamolong, Semson of Tonrshibadan, Kivadan Chivi Senayan, Semson de Pambalango by Tertanayan, Semson de Kivadan Chivi Sena, Dr. Silla, Yet Chibr, Shine Tara Matobadan, Pamba Matoba, Medo, yin chivar shina di tse sanjib chondon de jishan chu sanwa sai nyang bola kasara chuku do bon rei gerbon don ngun tserb gyarton namsen rei gerbo girde kiadan chibi semchen nam chung shiba yono kiwe chimbo ndola der trip shamba dan nyang jedor molum gir top dan dan tarnadan rei gerbo ziksir nawa yinna ya ngusu ter malo so tartib kara gyadan danchi jis ndanyat sang genim sanna devjang shabam samami ba jipshawo di karwi mangla dewadan jangam gi mangla yang dabar ne ba jipshawo di ze sangi di kitse tsatyan karab jotme ba yono sai nyambo rei gerbum zapano samgi me ke ba yin dertal hadan min rowana jarwi changjang jarda medo sai nyambo tsa monam gim dole xinji gerbo nam gi to chang ngbi le gerte yabago
Now let us begin the class on Ksitigarbha Sutra. Before the actual class, I would like to address a few things. First of all, I would like to mention that right now in Larungar, everyone's aware of the importance of studying and contemplation. Whomsoever is here in Larungar, I encourage you to try your best to attend classes. Let it be my classes or the Dharma teacher's classes. It's good to have some pressure when it comes to the study. It would be definitely beneficial to your own study and your contemplation and your practice. As I addressed earlier, if you were to have some habitual patterns of slacking off, such as sleeping and spending your day with distractedness, all of those kind of bad habitual patterns would lead you to lose the opportunities of listening to the Dharma, of receiving the nectars of the Dharma. Therefore, I really want you to place this as a great importance. Of course, other than those of you who have lots of work to do, I think the rest of you definitely should have certain requirement for yourself. Do not waste your time. This is one aspect. The other aspect I would like to address to all of our fellow practitioners, including whomsoever is listening to this class, I really encourage you to learn to cherish your time, because human life is so short. I understand that everyone has lots of things to do, including your studying and your contemplation and your practice, but we need to learn to cherish our time. At the same time, we need to learn to respect other people's time as well. Nowadays, we have various ways to contact others, such as calling, we use WeChat or sending messages, and use lots of the modern tools. And whenever we do that to contact others, we need to realize that time is life, and everyone has limited time, limited life, and everyone has lots of things to do in their limited time. They need to practice, they need to have lots of activities relating to making service to the others. So look at the great masters from the past. They don't even waste even 1 minute or half an hour. They use all their time on meaningful things such as propagating the Dharma and practicing the Dharma. So each one of us need to be more considerate of other people's time as well. If you were to be very distracted and very lazy, you need to consider others are not necessarily like you. So do not intrude into other people's space. Do not intrude into other people's life, especially when they're reading, when they're practicing. So whenever you're providing service to the others, whenever you are volunteering, then you should definitely use that time to make service and to provide your service. If you were to only study but not providing service to the others, then that is not reasonable either. That is not a proper way of using your time either. We should understand not to give up either the practice or the study or providing service to the others. As I said, those three aspects are all important in one's lifetime. Now, let us continue with the stories of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Back in the Tang Dynasty, there was once a lay practitioner whose name is Li. And at that time, he has a Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva statue at his home. And that statue is made of wood carving. At his home, there was once there is a maid around 50 years of age, but that maid doesn't have any faith. She actually has lots of wrong views. One day, when she noticed that the lay practitioner Li, the master, is not home, and she then threw away the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva statue without telling the master. When the master came back, he found that the statue was gone, and he felt extremely upset, and he kept on looking everywhere with tears, and then he saw this glowing light in the wild, and he found his Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva statue, and he was very happy about that. After a while, the maid got ill and she died, but she revived from death. After reviving from death, she cried and was telling everyone about her personal experience. So the maid said that after she died, she saw these two wardens riding on a horse and escorted her to the Yama. Over there, the Yama said that whomsoever had broken the statue of Ksitigarbha has to be sentenced. And right at the time when the Yama was about to punish her, a Shramana showed up. So the Yama and the wardens were very polite when they saw the Shramana and said that, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And the Shramana said that, "Well, I am here to rescue the maid of my devotee, though she herself doesn't have devotion towards me. She actually doesn't like me, but because she's the maid of my devotee, therefore I would like to ask the Yamas and the wardens to extend her life, to give her another chance to get back to human realm." After having that experience, the maid confessed and kept on chanting the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. And she saw during the bardo there were lots of different sentient beings. And because of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, their shackles all fell off naturally and they were liberated. So Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva brought her back to life, and after she woke up, she was regretting and she made confession. And ever since then, she generated a genuine faith towards Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and kept on making offering to the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva statue. And she kept on telling others about what happened to her and hoped that everyone could also generate faith towards Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. This story tells us that through the inconceivable blessings from Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, though there are people who has lots of wrong view, but as long as you make connection to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva won't take revenge upon her, but would benefit her anyhow. According to Bodhisattva Charyavatara, it says that even if one were to create some negative karma with the bodhisattvas, it is considered as a positive connection to them, an auspicious connection. So if you were to make offering to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and then there are people who were to even if there are others who don't have faith, but seeing the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, they would definitely receive also benefits. Lots of the stories are difficult to believe, I think, especially for people without genuine faith, especially for people with lots of dualistic thoughts. They probably will have doubts towards those. But there are lots of stories collected throughout different times, some from the 5 dynasties, some from the Tang Song dynasty, and different dynasties, different times. And there are lots of the stories collected from the modern time as well. I think modern people, I'm not sure if they will be able to accept it. I'm not sure if they will be able to accept these kind of stories. But I think that it is quite important to know how devoted the people in the past were, especially when we're studying a sutra. Then we should look at how the people in the past, they would be very devoted and pay prostration. They have lots of reverence towards the sutras, towards the statues, towards the pictures. And then they would receive genuine insights. Some of those insights or some of those stories would be recorded in words and recorded in books, which becomes quite a treasure of a collection of information. But nowadays, let's look at people. Because of the technology, because of the explosion of information, I'm not sure what kind of wealth, what kind of spiritual wealth we can leave for our next generation. We can make comparisons. I mean, the information was not that developed back then, but still lots of accumulation of spiritual wealth were passed down from our previous generations. But nowadays, I think people from the West and East, they pay more attention to material wealth rather than the spiritual wealth. So those are the stories. Now let's continue with this chapter. Mainly, this chapter is about Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, Shakyamuni Buddha, and lots of ghost kings and their conversations. Previously, we've already talked about the vicious ghost king. Vicious ghost king, he's quite kind, but his name is not so kind. His name is not very... his name is rather not very nice to hear, but he's a very kind ghost king, because he said that if the sentient beings were to practice any virtuous deeds, then he would protect them. The Buddha was very happy upon hearing his aspiration of protecting the ones who practice virtuous deeds. He said that if you were to do that, then I would definitely let the Brahmin as well as Indras to protect the ghost kings as well. Some of the ghost kings and spirits, they may appear to be rather quite horrifying, especially when we hear the names such as vicious ghost king. Upon hearing that, we feel kind of fearful towards them. But they have kind heart and they have kind actions, so we should remember that. Now let's continue from there. With that being said, the life-administering ghost king joined his palms and said to the Buddha, he said that, world-honored one, my charge is to oversee the birth and death of sentient beings in Jambudvipa. So it is I who decide when they're born and when they die. I am the one who's in charge of the birth and death for the sentient beings in Jambudvipa. I guess he must have lots of retinues, otherwise he would be very busy, because there are so many babies that's born, and there are so many people who would die. People would die of car accidents, or people could die of earthquake, and all of these kinds of birth and death are under the control of life-administering ghost king. He said that I have vowed to benefit these sentient beings. This is his aspiration. His aspiration is to benefit these beings, though he is a ghost king. He made the aspiration to benefit the sentient beings. Unfortunately, though, not many beings understood his secret meaning, because the ghost king really wants to benefit the sentient beings, but the beings do not understand it. So he said that, yet the sentient beings do not understand my wishes, so many of them are unable to find peace in neither birth or death. This ghost king is also a good ghost king. Look at the sentient beings in Jambudvipa. Birth and death is definitely the most important to the beings in Jambudvipa. And this ghost king really wants to help those sentient beings, but the sentient beings do not listen and do not practice virtue. Rather, they practice lots of vicious deeds. The humans of Jambudvipa would do good deeds to gain blessings when they wish to conceive children or when their children are born. So the sentient beings, they would practice lots of evil deeds. Then at that time, the ghost kings, the protectors, and the sanghas could encounter lots of difficulties to save them. So over here, he said, why? The humans of Jambudvipa who would do good deeds to gain blessings when they wish to conceive children or when their children are born. So there are two aspects. One is birth and the other one is death. These are the two aspects. First of all, at the beginning of the beings of Jambudvipa, when they were just born, let them be men or women, if they were to practice only virtuous deeds,
包括他的这种善的这种气氛的话，那就是他可以变卖到整个他的设施啊、色彩啊这样的。那么这样的话，
the protectors would
让
benefit
这些
them
土地呢，就土地神啊，就是这些的话呢，就是那么
because
这个无
the
量的这个关
virtuous
系，然后
atmosphere
呢，
could
就是保护
permeate
什么呢？
to
就是
the
如此
whole
得到呢，
house
就是
when
安
they're
乐，得
born.
到安乐。然后
The
呢，这个利益
protectors
这个
of
眷
the
属，这
earth
个是刚
would
于
also
世的时候，
feel
这个还
immeasurable
没有正式
joy.
降生，就是他的
So the
真正降生
protector
的时候，
would
如果呢，
make
我们
sure
就是
the
造一
mother
些
and
这
the
个
son
善
would
事啊，就是
receive
不造这
great
个恶事
bliss
啊，
and great
那这样的话
happiness.
呢，就是那么就是
Also
增
would
加了一些善
benefit
的这
the
种这个气
retinues.
氛。然后的话呢，就是那么增加了这个善的气氛的话呢，
If
那么
one
整
were
个这
to
个土
practice
地
lots
神
of
也好，世
virtuous
间的这
deeds
种贵
at
神
the
也好，
time
众
of
生也好，
birth
都
to
得到了这
increase
个
the
欢喜，都
atmosphere
得到
of
欢喜的
virtue,
话呢，他们
then all
会
the earth
就很
protectors,
认
all the
真的这
sentient
个拥
beings
护
would
保护维
have
护的话
great
呢，就是
joy.
谅目子
They
弟
would
啊，
also
这样的话呢，
protect
就
the
对整个这
mother,
个
the
眷
mother
属啊，
and
就
the
都
child
得到这个快乐，
diligently.
就是
In this
就
way,
得
all the
到这个快
retinues
乐。
would also be very happy.
这是就是一个方面的，我以前也是讲过吧，就是包括有些佛经当
Previously,
中
I've
呢，就是
also
就
taught
讲
on
的，
that.
就是讲的什
Some
么呢？
of the
就是有
sutras
些
would say that
这个众生刚开始来
when
到
the
这个世间
beings
的时候呢，
first come to
造一
this
些
world,
这个，比如说这个就是佛像啊，
at that
或者
time,
说
if you
是
were to build some
什么这
statues,
个。 就是
to
擦那个净饭啊，就是
hand
擦那
some
个净饭，
banners
或者呢，就是做这
to
个放
release
生啊，就是
life,
这样的话
all
呢，
of these
那
kinds of
因为这个
actions
原因呢，
would
就
lead
是
to
得到这个延
longevity,
寿，得到这个长寿啊。
long
就
life.
以前戒律一项里面也有，其他的经当中
Lots
也
of
是有
the
就是
lots
有
of
一
the
个8
stories
岁的这个
according
小沙弥，
to
就是然后跟那个一个长老，就
the
是阿罗汉，就
precepts
住在一起的时候，有
also
一次就是他
taught
用他
quite a
的这
bit.
个身体来
The
观察，
the
他
Vinaya
用他的
sutras
身体来
usually
观
would
察的
talk
时候，
quite a
其
bit
实
on
这
that.
个
For
沙弥
example,
的
there
话
was
呢，就是只
once
有这个
there
几
was a
天的时
story
间，
that
只有几
once
天的时间。
an
然后他呢，就是觉
8-year-old
得这个很可怜的，让他自己去
novice
家里去，就是
was
见一下自己
staying
的父
with
母。结果呢，
an
就是他在
arhat,
路上就是看到那个
a senior
下大雨，就
arhat,
是
and
好
then
像
the
把这个蚂
arhat
蚁窝，就是
with
蚂蚁窝
his
马上都被冲走。这个时候他
numerous
用那个泥
penetration,
土来就是把
he
这
saw
个
that this
水
little
区呢就
novice
是盖
only
到，
has a
然
few
后呢就
days
是
of
没
life
有让那
left.
个
And then the
就
arhat
水呢
felt
就是
that
进入
he's
到这个蚂蚁窝当中。
it's such
然
a
后他回
pity
去就是
he
待了几天
doesn't
以后回来的
the
时候，阿罗汉
the
一观
young
察呢，就是
Shramana
他的
only,
寿命
the
已经
young
延长到
Shramana only
80
has
岁了，
a
所
few
以
days of
所以
life
呢，
left.
就他说
So
你造了这个什么善因，你
the
回
arhat
去以
said
后造了
that
什
why
么
don't
善
you
因？他
go
说我
back
没有做
and
什么，
meet
这
your
个这是
parents?
我就
So
就
this
放个
little
生，就是
novice
就也可以说是这
listened
样的。
to
所以
him
我
and
们
then
有时
he
候
went
就
back
是
home.
当地下大雨的时候呢，
After
就
he
是一
got
般是
back,
舅母啊，有些喇嘛的
the
话呢，
arhat
就看
noticed
到那
that
个马
this
路
little
上呢，就是
novice
经常有一
life
些
has
蚯蚓啊，
extended
就
to
是见
80
到也
years
会就是
of
就
age.
就埋在那个
So
地
the
里面。
arhat
其
asked
实这
him,
也是
what did he
一种
do?
这个放生。
The
这要是
young
我们
novice said
看
that
到
he
就是有
saw
个别的一
lots
些
of
生命
ants were
正
to
在这
be
个死亡当
washed
中，在
away
挣扎
in
当中的时
the
候呢，你去如果
thunderstorm.
这个
So
救他的话呢，
he
这也是一种
tried
很
to
好的
build
生命。
up
而
some
且的话呢，就是当一个
some
孩子
mud
就是降生，就是来到
built
这个
some
人
mud
间的时候
around
呢，
their
就是那么亲朋好友的
around
话呢，尽
the
量的就
ants
是祝贺
nest
他，祝贺
and
他什么呢？
saved
不是
those
因为这个
ants.
杀
And
鸡杀
therefore,
牛杀羊
it
就
is
是来祝
because
贺他。
of
那这样的
releasing
话
or
呢，就是表
protecting the
面上看
life,
起来
he
是祝贺他
extended
的，但实际上的
his
话呢，就是对
longevity.
他的这个
Whenever
不
it's
管是母
raining
亲也
in
好，对他
Tibet,
的这
the
个
lamas and jomos,
这
they
个
would
宿
see
命
some
的话呢，就是
earthworm,
都
and
会
then
大大的
they would
减少，就
take
是
those
这样的道
earthworm
理的话
and
呢，
bury
其
them
实那
in
个
soil so
就
that
我
they
们
won't be
就
washed
这
away.
个
This is
什么
also a
著
kind
名
of
贵王的
saving
话呢，就
lives.
是他也是很
Whenever you
相
try
信
to
的，他
save
本来就
lives
是这些
when
众
they
生呢，
are
就是好好的，
at
就
the
是来到
brink
这个人
of
间之后呢，再好好
life
的这
and
个
when they're
过
at
下
the
去。
brink of
可
life
能我
and
们很
death,
多学佛的
then
人呢，
that's the
也
best
是这
way
样的，
of
就是觉
that's
得
also a
啊，
really
比如我
great
家
way
的这
of
个什么
liberating
生孩
life.
子的时候有撒了
When
很
a
多的这
child
个肾
is
啊，这
just
个让
born in
对
this
母亲
in this
什么这个
world,
坐月子
if
的时候
all the
就是
families and friends were to congratulate him, do not congratulate the birth by killing the others. You should congratulate the birth by releasing life. Otherwise, by killing, the action of killing would lead to a short lifespan for both mother and child. So over here, the Ghost King is very sad as well. He said that originally he really wanted all those people to come to this world and then live a good life. But sometimes their actions are very different than their wish. Their actions are on the wrong side of the stick, lead to the wrong result, just as whenever there are births, there are cultures where people would kill other beings to celebrate birth and birthdays. In this way, they would definitely lead to, their actions would definitely lead to suffering, would become the causes for suffering, though they wanted to gain happiness at the beginning. So sometimes the actions of the sentient beings are very difficult to be understood by the Ghost King. He originally wanted to help them, but they couldn't. Just as the Buddhist, whenever we see other people commit killing of the other sentient beings, we know that this is not an appropriate way of attaining happiness, but there's not much that we can do. Killing is not good for a child. You should bring lots of power, lots of energy, of virtue to celebrate the birth. It is said that harmony would lead to auspiciousness, and anger would lead to the viciousness. So we should generate virtuous mind. Therefore, that's what he said. And then after these children are born, the family should refrain from killing any living creature, nor should they kill living creatures for the purpose of mother's nourishment. The taste of flesh, of blood, of seafood, if you were to use all of these to give to the children and the mother as a sense of nourishment, or make others to kill, to cook those living creatures' flesh for you, or drinking, or consume alcohol or meat, play loud music, or indulge in excessive dancing during the gatherings to celebrate the birth, they should refrain from these acts, because these acts will disturb the peace of mother and children. Why? During birth, countless evil ghosts and demons would gather near the delivery room. I believe there was once a master, his name is Great Bravery. In verses, he composed a teaching on the different karmic retributions. The title said it's a sutra on different karmic retributions, but the content is more like a shastra, is like a commentary. It was translated in the Song Dynasty, where it says that if one were to seek for longevity, the cause or the root is not to harm the others. According to the Sutra of Great Collection, it says that each and every sentient being really loves their own life. If we were to harm the other lives to receive happiness for ourselves, that is not possible. So if you were wanting to create happiness for the mother and children, then do not drink alcohol, do not eat meat. If you really can't do any of those, then at least do not kill the living sentient beings. As I think maybe it's the best to have the ones that's the frozen meat. If you really can't avoid or if you really can't refrain from eating meat. I think I included in the merit of liberating life. I composed that, and I quoted from Master Lin Chi's teaching, where it says that during the time of birthdays, or celebrating the birth of a child, or having any celebration, weddings, and so forth, try your best to refrain from killing. Because if your happiness were to be built on top of the suffering of the other sentient beings, especially if your happiness is on top of killing the other sentient beings, when they have to give up their life, then you would definitely receive negative fruition. Many people, before they studied the Dharma, they created lots of negative deeds, some of which they can remember and some of which they can't. And they created lots of negative deeds because of the tradition, or because of the leisure of their parents, because of many different conditions. If you do not confess as soon as possible, then it would be very difficult for you to confess after you leave this world, because it's hard to say if you would ever have that opportunity to confess. So let's not to be so arrogant, think that, after I study the Dharma, then all of my negative deeds will be pacified, because it is empty in the nature of mind. But this is very nihilistic, because in our phenomena, in our relative world, we still have not departed from this relative world, and the karmic retribution is non-deceiving. It will not be emptied without confession. It is necessary for each one of us to contemplate, to look closely upon our life, upon our actions that we've committed through our life. Though that maybe we're vegetarians, maybe we're studying the Dharma, but before that, on our alaya, we've accumulated so much negative deeds. Some of those seeds are still not ripened, but they're still there in your alaya. So there are things that we still haven't really gotten any idea yet. Some would say that I practice good, virtuous deeds every day, but why is my health still declining? Why there's still lots of unhappy things that's happening in my life? You told me that virtuous actions would lead to virtuous fruition, and vice versa. But I have not received my virtuous fruition yet. But that is very short-sighted, because you only understood what happened in this lifetime, you are only experiencing the karmic retribution in this lifetime, but you do not understand that the karma, sometimes they are implanted in your alaya, and sometimes they are not ripened yet. For many years, I don't have good health, and I have never committed killing in this lifetime. At least I can't remember any. But it's very difficult to say if I've never committed killing in my previous life. I must have, because that is the karmic retribution I received in this lifetime. I genuinely feel in this way. Therefore, I do not say that, therefore, I do not complain to the three jewels, saying that the three jewels do not give me any blessings. I never thought in such a way. Looking at the great masters from the past, such as Gotsampa and so on, every time, whenever he feels happiness, then he feels that's the blessings from the Guru. And whenever he's suffering, he also thinks that's a blessing of the guru. I think many people, whenever they feel happy, they understand that's the blessing from the guru, but when they encounter suffering, it's very difficult for them to think that it's the blessings from the guru. So in such a way, I think that is not really adequate in your contemplation. So let's continue. It says that why negative deeds would lead to unhappiness of both mother and children. Then it says that during birth, countless evil ghosts and demons gather near the delivery room. I think nowadays it's probably a little bit different. According to Padmasambhava, he said that at the time of delivery, the mother and children are at the brink of death, and they're suffering both gravely, because at that time there were lots of evil ghosts and spirits would gather around the mother and child because they really enjoy eating blood. That's their liking. And over here, this life-administering ghost king, he would send the protectors, the earth protectors, to protect the mother and children so that they will again benefit and be happy, or everything would rather go very smoothly. So the life-administering ghost king would send the protectors to protect the mother and children. And because I have already commanded the residential and local earth deities to protect these mothers and unborn children, they're able to attain tranquility and benefits. After seeing that the birth has gone smoothly, the families should make offerings to thank the deities. So the family members should really practice virtuous deeds, such as chanting, such as making statues and making lamp offerings to show gratitude to the protectors and to the earth protectors and all kinds of protectors. That's going to be very helpful and beneficial to the protectors as well. But unfortunately, instead many of them kill living creatures to prepare feasts for celebratory gatherings. As a result, it creates sins for themselves and cause the mothers and children to be harmed. The family would get together, would kill the living creatures and would drink and would celebrate in such a way which is creating lots of negative karma, and in this way all of these kind of actions would contribute to the cause of suffering to both the relatives as well as the mother and children, and maybe later on it could lead to the death of mother and child. Even if not death, they would suffer from illness. According to the Medicine Buddha Sutra, where it is said says that at the time of birth, it is the best to chant the Medicine Buddha Sutra for the mother, and it is the best to get lots of people to chant that sutra, to chant Avalokiteshvara's name and mantra. Those would be very helpful. In Tibet, whenever there is birth of child, and whenever the mother gets a little bit better, she would right away go to the monasteries and practice lots of virtuous deeds to accumulate virtuous deed for the child, such as make offering of bath, and ask the sanghas to give blessings, to chant mantras, to receive empowerment of longevity. All of these are very fitting to the view of Buddhism, and it would benefit to the ghosts and the spirits, could bring lots of virtuous connections to self and other. So today, I think this is very fitting. This kind of teaching is very fitting to study, because it's really close to our life. Because people nowadays, they really care about their safety, their health, and they care about the birth of children, all of those. But lots of people don't really understand the cause and conditions because of ignorance, and their wishes and their actions are leading to completely different results. And once we understand what to adapt and what to give up, then we can try to convince our relatives and friends to practice virtuous deeds. And in this way, we should show our care to them. Of course, if they don't listen to us, do not complain, do not feel upset. We should try our best to influence them. In this way, the mother and child would have an opportunity to gain happiness in this lifetime. So the Ghost King continued to say that also for the people who are about to die in Jambudvipa, regardless of whether they are virtuous or evil, I wish to help them avoid the realms of suffering. So let them practice virtuous deeds or evil deeds. The Ghost King try to help them to avoid the three lower realms. I think sometimes the names of the Ghost Kings, or they may be Ghost Kings, their names may be fearful, or maybe they're in a fearful realm, but they're very kind. They have this kind inspiration. They would even help the ones who practice evil deeds. Don't even mention about the ones who practice virtuous deeds. Because the ones who practice virtuous deeds will be able to help him to cultivate, to accumulate virtuous strength as well. So previously, as we said, that if everyone were to practice virtuous deeds, it could accumulate more virtuous atmosphere for our world. And if everyone in this world could practice some virtuous deeds, and those virtuous deeds would contribute to the virtuous Ghost Kings, and then they would further protect us. Similarly, if one were to practice more evil deeds, that kind of evil deeds would contribute to the power of evil Ghost Kings and spirits. So whenever we practice virtue, we need to understand that our power would be our power could increase, and the virtuous power in this world would also increase. There is a sutra called the Ksitigarbha Sutra, where it says that if we were to give up all the evil deeds and practice all the virtuous deeds, it could lead to a mind that is devoid of fear, especially at the time of death and at the time of birth, at the time of our daily life, because we have eradicated evil and practiced good. Therefore, there is no fear in one's mind. If we were to practice evil deeds and do not practice lots of virtuous deeds, then lots of illness and lots of bad karma would follow us. Illness such as depression, such as anxiety, and we would sometimes feel not free, and sometimes we will be fettered by lots of afflictions and feel that the ghost kings and spirits are creating lots of fetters to us and lead to unsuccessful fulfillment of our wishes and aspirations. That could happen. So the beings in Jambudvipa, if they were to practice virtuous deeds at the time of death, there are all kinds of hundreds and thousands of ghost kings and spirits from evil deeds. They would transform into the appearance of parents, of retinues, and then lead them to fall into the three lower realms. It is also taught in the Tantra as well as the Bardo teachings. At the time of death, everything is very complicated. At that time, the ones who practice virtuous deeds throughout the whole life, they don't get seduced easily. But if one were to practice lots of evil deeds and have lots of negative karma, then at that time, lots of devious ghosts would transform into the shape of, into the form and appearance of your parents, of your wife, husband, of your retinue, as your friends, as whomsoever you have lots of graspings towards, and then they would transform into that form and take you and lead you, not leading you to Pure Land, but to the three lower realms. So at the time of, since we're still living in this world, we should constantly contemplate upon death is impermanent, and we should definitely supplicate to the Guru and the Three Jewels, and keep on contemplate in depth of all of the teachings, as well as remembering your sacred name given to you during your empowerment, because then even if you were to be falling into the three lower realms, your root guru would be there to call you by your secret name, and if you were to generate great faith, you will be able to be liberated. This is quite a key to remember. And then the ghost king continued to say that, world-honored one, when these men and women in Jambudvipa are on the verge of death, their minds are deluded and are unable to distinguish between good and evil. At the time of the four great elements began to dissolve, many kinds of different situations would happen. At the beginning of the Bardo, lots of our habitual mind or lots of our the clarity of our mind would disappear, especially when the white and red body meets in the middle. The consciousness would, our mind would rather go unconscious. So lots of the teachings in the Bardo as well as in the Tantra, that's how it's taught. We would be very smart at that time. We would have great memory. We can hear and look, and we can see very clearly family. And this bardo period is rather quite a long period of time where you can see lots of different manifestations. And over here it says that at the end of life, one would fall unconscious, and without having the without have the ability to distinguish good and evil, and even they would have the situation of not seeing, not hearing. So he continued to say that neither can their eyes see nor can their ears hear. Thus, the dying people's relative must make great offerings, recite sutras, and chant the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So at this time, this is the best time to make offering, to chant sutras such as the Diamond Sutra, Medicine Buddha Sutra, hearing liberation, liberation upon hearing, and the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, because this is the crucial time where if you were to practice virtuous deeds, then the deceased one would quickly depart from the three lower realms, and this is quite important. There are people who do not pay attention to the death of their loved ones. This is quite a pity, because when a person is about to die, they have to give up everything, their house, their luxurious cars, and they cannot take even one needle or a thread. At that time, what that person needs the most is virtuous practice, is virtuous dharma. As Buddhists, especially the Vajra practitioners, would chant for the fellow dharma practitioners to help them. This is very helpful. This is very necessary as well. In Tibet, because of our faith, this is quite commonly known and commonly practiced. If a person is at the time of death, and before he actually stopped breathing, usually their family members or friends would invite the Sangha to chant the liberation upon hearing for 49 days. This is very common. There's once a sutra that's translated by I Ching, and the sutra's name is Impermanent Sutra. It says that if one were about to die, you should show him the picture of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then generate bodhicitta and ask him to take refuge, to repent, to chant the Buddha's name, to uphold the to observe precepts, all of those, and then the person won't fall into the three lower realms. Back in 2000, a few years ago, I gave a teaching on the Wisdom Sutra before the time of death, and it was really supreme. According to the Sutra of Impermanence, it says that if one were to have lots of filial piety towards the deceased one, then that person should stop crying and stop shouting at the time of parents' death. This is according to the sutra. Lots of Buddhists nowadays, they only make up the practices. For example, some would say that, you should not practice the smoke offering, otherwise the ghosts and the spirits would come here. It would be very dangerous for you. Actually, that is not reliable, because the ghosts and spirits spirits, they have penetration power, and when you were making offerings to them, they will be here, and definitely they won't harm you because you're making offerings to them. So there are people who says that you cannot practice smoke offering because the ghosts and the spirits would come to harm you. That is not appropriate. That is not that is not according to the teachings of the sutra. But previously, what we said about one should not cry at the deceased at the time of others' death. This is appropriate. This is according to the sutra. There are some said that at the time of departing from the guru, one should not pay homage, one should not prostrate. I read some of the teacher's biography where it says that when they left their gurus, they made prostration and then later never seen the teacher. Some of those are because of their genuine insights or because of their experience. But if one were to say that, if one were to just make up things like this, this is not reliable. Anyhow, at the time of a person's death, when that person has not died yet, you should start chanting the sutra and chant the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is very good. Some of these teachings are in accordance to it is good to chant the names of different Buddhas. It is really good to chant the names of Amitabha, Shakyamuni Buddha, or any Bodhisattvas, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, and all of those. Or you can chant a verse from the Diamond Sutra or Ksitigarbha Sutra, even one verse. It would be very helpful. That could lead them to gain liberation from hell realm, from lower realms. So whenever we see sentient beings at the time of their death, it is really necessary for us to chant the name of Buddhas for them. Back in 2018, I went to a hospital. At that time, I think I got a flu. I stayed in Milan area, and my flu lasted for a long time, and there was no large hospitals around me. So I went to a small clinic, but there was such a long queue. It took me a long time to stay in that queue, and it was still not my turn. Just right about the time of my turn, there was someone who there was someone in that clinic was about to die. So all the doctors stood up and they ran to the ER and try to rescue that person. So I had to restart the queue later again, and then after about an hour, when it was almost my time again, someone else then went to the ER, and I thought to myself, well, there is no need for me to. I think that it's very difficult for me to get my turn to to get my prescription. Then why don't I just chant the names to the two corpses, to the two corpses that's lying there? And at that time, one of the family had some faith, and the other one probably didn't have faith. The other one didn't like me chanting the names of the Buddha, but I did that anyways. And sometimes, though other people didn't ask you to particularly chant the names or help them to liberate the beings, it is still best to chant the Buddha's names and Bodhisattva's names. There is a sutra called the Jewel Light Dharani, Jewel Light Brightness Dharani Sutra, where it says that at the time of death, if one were to chant the name of the Buddha and generate admiration towards the Buddha's statue, a Buddha's image, then the Buddha would definitely liberate one to to liberate one, and eventually one will be able to listen to the teachings given by all the Buddhas. So this is the inconceivable merit of chanting the name of the Buddha. As I said earlier, even if it is just one sentence, one stanza, it could provide immeasurable benefit to the deceased one. There's a collection of stories of taking refuge to the Three Jewels, where it says that there was once a lay practitioner who had great faith in Buddhism, and when he listens to the Parinirvana Sutra, and especially listening to the permanent Buddha nature, he couldn't accept it. He kept on feeling that this permanent sounds like liberation, but he generated some doubts. And then this person died. After his death, his heart center kept warm for a long period of time. So the family members did not dare to bury his corpse. He revived after 7 days, and he told his story of being into the bardal and being punished in the Avicii hell realm. And then the Yama said that it is because you had such a wrong view towards Mahayana Buddha Dharma, therefore you had to be reborn in the Avicii hell realm. He thought to himself that, well, I chanted that the Buddha nature is permanent, I won't be reborn in hell realm. And then he heard that there's a voice. If one were to believe or even without belief, but hear the word of permanent, one will not be reborn into the three lower realms. One will definitely be reborn in the land of immovability. And upon hearing this sound, the Yama led him to go back to the human realm. So he woke up from this experience and told everyone his story while weeping. And that's how he generated pure faith towards Mahayana teachings. In the Uttara Tantra Shastra, where we also talk about the Buddha nature, talk about the pure Buddha nature and all of those, upon hearing even one word and one stanza of that, we can generate a great benefit. But some people cannot believe in that. They have doubts. Sometimes, whenever we chant sutras, we chant names of the Buddha, especially if we were to just chant as simple as Namo Buddha, it's so simple, but it could generate great power. Just as some medicine looks very tiny, but after taking those tiny pills, it could cure really severe illness. So it's similar. So sometimes if we were to chant sutras such as Diamond Sutra, Ksitigarbha Sutra, or Amitabha Sutra, it may only take a very short period of time, but the benefit that could bring to the deceased one, could bring to the others, could definitely transform or could definitely change the course of his fate. It is because we chanted the name of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for him, and then that could lead to the result of not being reborn in hell realm for many kalpas. It is because of the inconceivable merit that could be generated. As Buddhists, we definitely have to have a devotion, because devotion is the mother of all merits. So we should be clear about that, because without devotion, if we were to only differentiate, if we were to only differentiate merit or not much merit with a sense of dualism or a sense of scholastic thinking, then we won't be able to understand. Anyhow, the above stated how this Ghost King, life administering Ghost King, would save the beings during birth and time of death. And then the Buddha praised the life administering Ghost King, saying that your great compassion enabled you to make such a great vow of protecting beings at the time of their birth and death. You're definitely a great Bodhisattva. And he said that you're definitely a very important, what you're doing is definitely very important. Sometimes we see that when the authorities would show up, they definitely could create quite important or quite essential changes, or could implement their power in such a way. So this says that, so over here in the sutra it says that your great compassion enabled you to make such great vow of protecting beings at the time of their birth and death. Do not retreat from your oath to protect them at the moment of their birth and assist them to liberate themselves at the moment of their death. Enable all of them to liberate themselves and attain peace and tranquility forever. So again, the Buddha reminded the life administering Ghost King so that the Ghost King won't retreat from his aspiration. Indeed, in Mahayana Buddhism, previously we've also talked about do not retrogress in terms of your faith. Lots of people make such aspirations. Lots of people probably under different causes and conditions made lots of aspirations, but later on maybe they would encounter various kinds of obstacles and they would encounter various kinds of things that would happen in their life, and then sometimes they temporarily or they would retrogress from the path. In this way, I would really encourage you to listen to the class often and try to get in touch with good spiritual friend and Dharma teachers, because our capacity is very limited. Our mind is not as stable as bodhisattvas, and we can be easily wavered by the external phenomena. We can change very constantly. So the warning over here, or the reminder given by the Buddha to life administering Ghost King, is also a good reminder to ourselves. When it comes to the action of liberating sentient beings or of benefiting sentient beings, we should try our best not to retrogress on this path. We should try our best not to retreat our aspiration. Whatever we can do in whatever time, we should try our best. And then the Ghost King replied to the Buddha, do not have concern, don't worry. He's saying that I shall uphold my vow as long as I exist to protect the sentient beings of Jambudvipa. I would definitely try to help the sentient beings over here, so at the time of their birth and death, they can attain peace and tranquility. I only wish the sentient beings believe and follow my advice at the time of birth and death. So the Ghost King said that, don't worry, I definitely could make such aspiration. I definitely won't retrogress on the path. So at the time of life and at the time of death, I would definitely assist them. My only hope is that they could listen to me at my I only hope that sentient beings could listen to my advice. Because sentient beings do not listen to me. All he's teaching is that do not practice do not practice devious deeds at the time of birth and at the time of death. As long as you listen to me, then you would definitely be able to attain liberation. You would definitely be able to generate a great benefit to yourself. You would definitely be able to attain tranquility and peace. That's a promise given by the Ghost King to the Buddha. At that time, the Buddha told Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, saying that this life-administering Ghost King has been a great Ghost King for thousands of lives, protecting sentient beings at the time of their birth and death. For hundreds and thousands of times, of lifetimes, he had been the Ghost King of life administration. So this great one, this great Ghost King has have very strong compassionate heart and compassionate mind, and because of that, though this Ghost King appears to be a demon or appear to be a ghost, but he is not a ghost. This Mahasattva has a great compassion that he appears in the form of powerful ghost. 170 kalpas from now, he shall become a Buddha with the title. He shall become a Buddha. There are ghosts who appears in a way that they're probably more compassionate than human beings. So 170 kalpas from now, he shall become a Buddha with the title Nirabhasha Tathagata. The kalpa will be called peace and tranquility. His world will be named pure abode. His Buddha lifespan would be countless of kalpas. Ksitigarbha, these are the unimaginable deeds of this great Ghost King. The devas and humans delivered by him will also be innumerable. So he would liberate innumerable numbers of devas and humans. So today we've already talked about this life-administering Ghost King, and by now we know that lots of the Ghost Kings, they may have vicious names such as evil or vicious Ghost King or life-administering Ghost King, but what they're doing, they're practicing the activities to benefit sentient beings. Also, the other day we talked about different protectors, the protector of the earth and the protectors of the mountains, trees, and Ghost Kings, all of those. In fact, the majority of them are virtuous. They have generated bodhicitta, so we don't have to be afraid of them. On the other hand, the so-called Ghost King, they indeed have the mind of benefiting the sentient beings. So if we were to think of the ghosts and spirits as the manifestation of our own mind, they're not going to create any harm to you. Do not perceive others as vicious. Do not think that in this world the ghosts are demons and they're vicious, they're evil, this is a bad person, that is a bad person. Then this whole world would transform to become your enemy. Rather, we should practice to view this whole world as pure. Everything are the manifestations of bodhisattvas and Buddhas, and we should try it this way.